Welcome to All the F Words,
a podcast where two writer friends, nearly 30 years apart, explore everything we give an F about. I'm Gabby Moskowitz.
And I'm Joanne Greene. On each episode of All the F Words, we'll focus on a theme starting with the letter F. Things like fire, frustration, and fruit.
We'll share stories from our lives and our distinct generational perspectives and look to the experts for insights and ideas.
Today, we're talking about fiber. The dietary variety. Why, is there another variety? Oh, I guess, yeah, the kind in clothing and fabric. Okay.
And like fiber optics, whatever that is, I don't know.
Dietary fiber.
Yes, we are talking about dietary fiber. It may not be one of our most glamorous topics, but it is a very important one, and we'll get into that.
Sexy.
Do you know, Joanne, that colon cancer is showing up with increasing prevalence in younger adults, people under 50?
I hate hearing that.
It's actually estimated that 1 in 10 colon cancers and 1 in 4 rectal cancers will be diagnosed in adults under 50. Isn't that
This
crazy?
is really newsworthy. Why are we breaking this story?
Yeah.
I mean, as opposed to like splashing it across the New York Times front page.
Well, it's been there. It's something that is getting talked more. It's it's not like we said in our intro, it's not a glamorous topic. But it's something that is becoming more and more concerning. A lot of doctors are starting to recommend earlier colonoscopies, and that especially like in my case, there's colon cancer on both sides of my family. So I actually had my first colonoscopy when I was in my late 30s. So
much fun. It's so much fun.
So, it wasn't bad. I think we talked about my colonoscopy. I think we've talked about colonoscopies a few times on this podcast because we do love
That's why
share.
we get the big downloads.
Yeah. If you're into colonoscopy talk, you came to the right place.
Oh my God. I have to interrupt you for just 1 second and tell you the craziest thing.
Tell me.
So the way the algorithms on Amazon work, my book is now available for pre-order, and I must have had to check every possible topic that my book covered. So, accident, injury, illness, loss, hurricane, colon cancer. So I got notified that my book is in the top 10 of new books on colorectal cancer.
Oh Woo-hoo! My gosh. Oh my gosh.
And it's really not about, but it's not about that at all. So don't buy it if you want to learn more about colon cancer, except about why you should have a colonoscopy, because again, no symptoms. And they said, Mrs. Greene, we think you have cancer. So there you have it. Early detection.
Really important. As an aside, but related thing to books about colon cancer, my father-in-law was a longtime social worker, professor of social work, and has done a lot of professional writing. And he wrote like maybe a foreword or a part of a book based on someone else's experience called about someone having, I believe, rectal cancer. And it's called Cancer Up the Wazoo.
That's kind of a cool title. I will say. Okay, now let's go back. What I'm most interested in here is why they think, they being the experts, what the epidemiologists, why they think there is this precipitous rise in the incidence of colorectal cancer in younger people.
So there's strong evidence that the development of colorectal cancer is related to diet and lifestyle. And we're a lot more sedentary than we were 50 years ago, and we eat less fiber because we eat a lot more processed foods. So the recommended amount for children and adults is 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. Most Americans only get around 15 grams per day, people eating what they call the standard American diet. And, there are a lot of nuances to what food people eat. And I don't like to get judgmental or talk about people just not doing what they need to do as if it's so easy. We live in a place where we have both the means and easy access to all kinds of healthy food. But there are people who live in food deserts. There are people for whom it's not a financially viable thing. So for a variety of reasons, Americans are not consuming as much fiber as they used to. And there is a lot of thought that that is contributing to the uptick in these diagnoses.
So two things. First of all, I just want to explain what a food desert is for those of you for whom this is an unfamiliar term. There are many places in this country, and particularly inner cities, where there's easy access to fast food, cheap fast food, and limited access to fresh foods, fresh fruits and vegetables, for instance. So there may even be some foods sold in, say, a large pharmacy. I don't know what they're called, like a CVS or a Rite Aid or a Walgreens. Sometimes they have food. Rarely do they have fresh food. And when they do, you might be paying a few dollars for an apple.
It's like airport prices for fresh food. It
is, right. So a food desert is an area where you don't have options. Now, what makes this so serious is that in a place where people have limited access, first of all, to resources, to money, maybe don't have cars to drive to an area where they can have access to a wider range of fresh foods. They're paying more and essentially getting less. And then when we talk about fiber specifically, you know, I think about it as something that I get in bread, but that's because I eat whole grain bread. Mm-hmm. But if you're going to a fast food place and picking up a burger, that is not necessarily a whole grain bun.
That is true. That is true. And I want to actually get into exactly what fiber is. I think probably most of our listeners have some sense, but I learned a little bit more about it than I had known before. So
teach us, a wise one. Teach us.
Yes, let me tell you. Okay. So fiber is a type of carbohydrate that the body cannot digest. So most carbs are broken down into sugar molecules called glucose, which we use for energy. But fiber cannot be broken down into sugar and instead passes through the body undigested. And this helps to regulate a few things. It helps regulate our body's use of sugars. And so that helps to keep hunger as well as blood sugar in check. So that's why you'll often hear doctors talk about how you need to focus on fat, protein, and fiber in order to stay satiated and also in order to control blood glucose to prevent things like prediabetes and diabetes, to protect your insulin. But then fiber also does something else, which is it helps with the passage of waste. It helps flush out our lower intestines. So there are two kinds of fiber. There's soluble fiber, which dissolves in water and can help lower glucose levels and also lower blood cholesterol, which is really important. So those are foods like oatmeal, chia seeds, nuts, beans, lentils, apples, and blueberries. And obviously,
you're describing my diet here.
Most of those. They're all very delicious foods. Basically, anything you would put in, an overnight oatmeal bowl. It's like a lot of breakfast fibers we think of are soluble fiber. Now, there's insoluble fiber, which is also very important. It does not dissolve in water. It can help, and it helps food move through your digestive system, which promotes regularity and also helps prevent the dreaded C, one of the dreaded C's, constipation. I told you this was going to be a not so glamorous but important episode.
Not so glamorous, but Americans are so squeamish about talking about bodily functions, and we need to get over ourselves because this is all just part of staying healthy. So,
Absolutely.
So yay for us for talking about this unglamorous topic.
And you know what's less glamorous than eating fiber for your constipation? What's even less glamorous is being constipated. So, for insoluble fiber, that includes whole wheat products, per your reference to whole grain bread, things like quinoa, which is actually a seed, not a grain, brown rice, legumes, leafy greens like kale and then also almond, which is not
chard.
Chard, walnuts, seeds, and fruits with edible skins. So pears and apples. And it's interesting, I found apples listed in both. I think that the skins of apples are insoluble, but the fruit inside of the skin is soluble. So if you eat an apple, you get a double whammy of 2 kinds of fiber.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Teacher, call on me. What is the difference between a legume and a bean? Is a bean a legume?
So no. Well, sometimes. I'm not sure exactly. I should know this, but like what the general difference is. I know that I believe so legumes includes peanuts and peas. And then there are some beans that are in a different category. I don't know exactly. Maybe we can, if we ever give in to Fred's idea that we do a flatulence episode, I will definitely do some heavy bean research.
She won't let me do it. See, this is where you like fiber, yes, but farting, no. Okay. You do.
We can absolutely incorporate. We can incorporate farting. There's fiber and farting have a lot.
We should just do
common.
That included in this episode. So here's the thing. Sure. Bottom line: eat seeds, eat nuts, eat beans, eat fruit, eat whole grains.
Yes.
What else do we need to know?
Absolutely. Okay. So, there's one. There are also some functional fibers if you're not able to get fiber from a food source. And so that is stuff like psyllium. Have you ever used psyllium before?
I cannot say that I have.
No? Have you ever taken Metamucil?
No, I actually have not.
Oh, wow.
Let's just say this is not a problem area.
Well, that's great. Good for you. Psyllium is actually, as a chef, psyllium is a great tool if you're making gluten-free stuff. So whenever I've made anything, like I have a great pizza, I'm not gluten-free, but I've cooked for gluten-free people. And psyllium...
They're everywhere. They're everywhere.
They are, especially these days. So psyllium is a husk. And you can get a fine powder, or you can actually get it in the husk. And when you combine it with water, it becomes a thick gel. It's absolutely disgusting. That's why people take things like Metamucil, because it's flavored. And what it does is it basically bonds to your whatever is inside. I'm sure I'm botching this scientifically, but in fact, no, I can tell you right here.
She's referring to her notes now.
So it has a laxative effect. And basically what it does is it holds onto water inside of you and softens and bulks stools so they come out more easily. So it's a treatment often for constipation. But if you are looking to make gluten-free foods that are anything that needs to be pliable or chewy, which if you've worked with gluten-free flours, there's no gluten in them, so that it's missing that protein, so you don't have the same sort of stretchability. Psyllium can add that. So if you combine gluten-free flour and psyllium with water, then you can get kind of a stretchy dough that's easy to work with, and also when it bakes, it has a little more chew like a traditional dough. So that's just a little aside.
Or you could just buy gluten-free stuff that somebody else already figured all this out and dealt with.
That's always a good option. That's always a good option too. There's also polydextrose and polyols, which are made of glucose and sorbitol. So we're talking about like sugar alcohols. Those are fiber. And then pectins, inulin, resistant starch, different kinds of gums like carrageenan, that kind of thing. Those are soluble fibers derived from plant foods as listed above. And you'll often see these in processed, often gluten-free or sugar-free foods.
So this is what I don't get. How is the typical consumer, let's take me, supposed to know which of these fancy-sounding chemicals listed as an ingredient in our foods are good and which ones are bad? Do you have to actually do a deep dive and learn about all of them? Like carrageenan does not sound good to me, and yet, did I even say that correctly?
Yeah, I think it's carrageenan. It's in, or I don't know actually. It's often in plant-based milks.
Yeah, like polydextrose does not sound good. It sounds like polyester food, which I don't.
Here's my general answer to that. I think that it's very easy to, like, whenever I hear somebody say that they don't eat chemicals, they don't like chemicals, they stay away from chemicals, it makes me so mad because, like, first of all, chemicals keep us alive. Second of all, everything is chemicals. Even natural, quote unquote, natural things are chemicals. So my opinion is, in general, you should be working on getting most of your nutrition from food, from whole, real food. But also, if there's something that you like and it's processed, there's no reason it necessarily has to be excluded from one's diet, especially on the basis of having those ingredients. And I think allowing ourselves to give into the fear mongering that is so prevalent, especially in like diet culture, it's just like a weird goal of somehow nutritional purity that just doesn't exist. I don't think that we need to worry too much about that. I do think, however, whole fruits and vegetables and grains and, other sources of fiber, things that are close to the original source, is in general a good thing to strive for.
So fiber is actually important in reducing the risk of other diseases as well, isn't it?
So as I was mentioning before, fiber protects against diabetes and other blood sugar related issues. So fiber can help keep our blood sugar in check by managing our absorption of glucose. The other thing that it helps with is cholesterol levels. So fiber helps basically flush out cholesterol and can help keep those levels in check. That's why, oats are often recommended. I think sometimes one of the first approaches when somebody has an issue with cholesterol is to start with adding oats. And I think Cheerios kind of tried to jump on that for a while and try to get people to eat a bowl of Cheerios instead of oats. And I think because they're made from oats, you probably do get some benefit from that. But whole oats or steel cut oats, are you a fan of steel cut oats?
I am. I'm a fan of making the oatmeal, the 30-minute thing, but 30 minutes. Or if you soak them the night before, I know it's quicker.
Do you like overnight oats?
Yeah, but don't you be dissing my Cheerios, because Cheerios are kind of a perfect food. First of all, I love Cheerios, and you can make a necklace out of them. And I was able to divert my granddaughter's attention when she was very upset about, I don't remember what recently. And I said, you know how they say you shouldn't play with your food? I disagree. I think you should play with your food. I mean, why would you not play with your food?
Good point.
If you can. And we made Cheerio necklaces, and she immediately stopped whining about whatever it was. Not that she whines. I digress. We will discuss Cheerios and other matters related to fiber in just a moment. So here's the thing about Cheerios, because I'm not ready to drop the topic yet. When everybody went nuts about whole grains and all that, Cheerios are a whole grain. They always were. They don't have a lot of garbage in them. And then they had to start making this kind of Cheerio and that kind of Cheerio. And all of those have sugar in them. So like I feel about popcorn, plain is perfect. Why do you have to add jalapeno? Why do you have to add caramel or whatever?
Do you put butter on your popcorn?
I do not.
Really?
I do not.
Do you know what my mom in the 90s, what my mom used to put on popcorn? She would spray it with Pam.
Well, because then the salt will stick.
Pam, and then she would sprinkle it with, do you remember Molly McButter?
I certainly do not. Who is that?
Oh, it was like butter flavored powder. I'm sure it was I'm
Sounds
sure it
terrible.
was.
It probably it had a lot of syllables in the ingredients.
I'm
That's what I
sure
would
there's
say.
definitely some gums and carrageenan or something in there. But yeah, I remember thinking it was delicious. And did you have an air popper in the 90s?
Oh, of course. Well, here's the thing. I love popcorn. I love the crunch. I love the salt. Is popcorn fiber?
Oh yeah, in fact, that brings me to one of my next things to mention. So popcorn is like pure fiber. Popcorn is great unless you have something called diverticulitis. Are you familiar with diverticulitis?
Yes, my mother died of the complications of it. So yes, I know it very well.
Oh my goodness.
Well, she was 92, so
okay.
it was okay. But yes, I know all about it.
Did she have to eat a low fiber diet most of the time, or there's some new research on that I was reading about? She
was really conscious about eating a balanced diet and health food to the extent that they had information in any given decade. So, and this is just a little aside, like my mom put wheat germ on her food. My mom made yogurt from scratch before yogurt became a mass commodity that you could buy in stores. She had different locations in our kitchen where it was dark but damp, and then another place where the yogurt would be somewhere for one day, and then it would be up on the top of the refrigerator, and then it would be under the sink, and she knew exactly how many days before it turned into the yogurt to eat. But yeah, I mean, flaxseed, all of it, back before anybody had heard of those things. Yeah. It's enough to give her daughter eating disorders.
Oh, geez. Well, that's another issue. But there have been some interesting research about diverticulitis recently, and it sounds like your mom is kind of ahead of her time with that. The thinking for a long time has been that people with diverticulitis should avoid fiber. It is an issue for people with diverticulitis to have large seeds and sometimes nuts, and popcorn is one of those. But there has been some new research that regular consumption of fiber when someone with diverticulitis is not having a flare-up can actually be really helpful. And I should have said what diverticulitis is before I started talking about it. So it occurs when small bulging pouches, which are called diverticula, develop in one's digestive tract. And when one or more of these pouches becomes inflamed, the condition is called diverticulitis. So you can sort of imagine how large seeds could be a problem for someone like that. But for everyone else, popcorn is a great and delicious source of fiber. And I happen to like putting stuff on popcorn. I make very good, let's see. Well, I live in a house of people who love really spicy food. And so we make, well, have you ever had everything but the elote from Trader Joe's?
No, but I've seen it. I don't know what it is.
It is delicious. Do you know what elote is?
Mexican corn? Please inform me. Okay. Oh, Mexican street corn. Yes, I do know that. Yes.
So it's all the flavors of Mexican street corn, and it's actually not that spicy, but it's sort of on the road. It's a gateway. It's a gateway spicy food. So
it's a gateway spice. Soon you'll be putting sriracha on everything.
Yes, it's true. It's true. So we do butter and everything but the elote. But what I recently started doing is I make my 4-year-old and my husband, and honestly my 2-year-old, but she's too little for popcorn. They're all obsessed with buffalo sauce. So Frank's buffalo sauce. You know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
Well, you know what buffalo wings are.
But my not yet 2-year-old grandson eats popcorn all the time. Should I be concerned?
It's
he loves it.
It's probably okay if he's.
Yeah, he's fine. We have pictures of him sitting with his left hand in his bowl and his right hand in his sister's bowl simultaneously.
Yeah, good supervision, probably fine. But I make a butter and buffalo hot sauce. You know what buffalo hot sauce is, right?
Yeah, but you're talking to the wrong person here because, as I said, I'm a purist. Salt,
Just
period.
salt.
Popcorn, salt.
Okay,
Just,
in a vacuum, do you like spicy food?
yeah, well, I don't know about a vacuum, but I like it on food. But popcorn is a category by itself. I feel this way about certain things. I'm a purist when it comes to certain things. So yes, I do like spicy food, but it doesn't always like me. So I have to be careful.
That can be tricky.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk all day long about the stuff I like to put on popcorn. Evan likes to put nutritional yeast on his popcorn.
Yeah, that makes it taste almost like Parmesan cheesy kind of almost.
Yeah. Yeah. All kinds of good stuff and lots of pepper, which also can be a problem for people with diverticulitis. So my diverticulitis cookbook is probably not going to do very well.
Here are my big takeaways from this show, Gabby.
Tell me.
One, itis, a lot of words end in itis, blah, 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 itis. Mm-hmm. That means inflammation. I mean, you just sort of said it in passing, but I think it's one of those things. Oh, that's what that means. Like it's an inflammation of something. Number two, eat more fiber. And where you get more fiber is whole grains, nuts, seeds, vegetables, legumes, green leafy kinds of things, charred kale, those things. And number three, don't think that you're out of the woods because you're under 50, because more and more people under 50 are being diagnosed with these illnesses, perhaps due to a lack of fiber in their diet.
Yes.
And four, which is my personal biggest takeaway, is popcorn is fiber. I'm so excited.
And I want to just say one little thing. If you're listening to this and you're realizing that perhaps you should get your first colonoscopy. The prep wasn't fun, but I have heard that in the last few years, I got mine like 3 or 4 years ago, and I had to do the actual, the prep where you drink a bunch of stuff, but there's a new kind of prep that is available apparently that's just a pill. Did you know this? A pill and a lot of water.
Absolutely not. And I'm not going to say that I'm looking forward to my next colonoscopy, but I will dread it less knowing this information.
And the actual procedure is nothing.
Oh my God. Well, it's nothing because you take the cocktail of Versed and fentanyl.
Yeah, yes.
That is what you get. And you wake up and you go, it hasn't happened yet. And they go, oh no, it already happened. And you go, oh no, it did not happen. And they say, oh, it happened. Yeah, it's the best, but only under supervision. Stay away from all these drugs unless you're in a therapeutic environment.
Listen to our fentanyl episode if you want to know more. The other thing is, it can be very scary anytime you go through a screening. I definitely felt this when I had my first mammogram. Like, oh God, what if they find something? That's of course, the most stressful part. But the good news is most of the time with colonoscopies, the biopsy is the cure. The removal of the polyp and the testing of whether or not it's cancerous is the cure for most of the time. I mean, I will just share that in my case, the biopsy showed that it was cancer, and so I had to have a subsequent surgery, and then I was fine. So bottom line is we absolutely hope that they don't find something. But if we are having these kinds of medical tests prophylactically, meaning if we're having them to assure early detection, if in fact something is wrong, then it's good news. Because Had I not had that colonoscopy, we would not be doing this particular podcast right now.
Thanks so much for listening to All the F Words today. We invite you to communicate with us. We are at allthefwordspod@gmail.com.
You can also find us on social media, as I said. We are on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube at All the F Words Pod.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Eat fiber.